broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey, Gracepoint fans, welcome back to AFTERBUZZ TV. We have an answer. Woo! Yeah. Guys, I'm your host, Zach Wilson. There's no need for me to be a detective anymore because we solved the case. My fantastic panelists are here.
Hey.
Kelly McInerney.
What's up?
Adrian Snow.
Hello, everyone.
Anastasia unfortunately could not join us for the finale. We are sad and we miss her, but let's dig in. Can I get a drum roll, please? Nope.
No.
It was Joe / Tom.
Yeah.
It's like it was this. No, it was that. But that was sort of just how the episode went.
Yeah, it's a nice little twist.
Yeah, for the American version. That was
Yes.
nice.
What did you guys think? Reactions, just overall, right at the end here.
I kind of called Joe, you know, so I wasn't that surprised. And I spoke to Anastasia, who thought it was him too. I spoke to her.
I think by the end of last episode, we were all kind of, well, at least I know I was hopping on the.
Yeah.
We knew there was something suspicious about him.
Yeah.
I think I was the only one who didn't want to jump on the molestation train.
I also thought there was more than one person involved.
Yeah. You were the you thought that.
So
right.
We've been I think it was like week 4 or 5 that we were like, it's got to be a whole scheme of people. I was playing out scenarios mid-season where it's like, oh, it's Vince in league with Joe and the priest and it's a conspiracy.
Yeah.
Too much.
I mean, we had those.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was going to be a lot more extreme than what it was. I felt like there was a theme of pedophilia going on, like, over and over again, so I felt like that was definitely going to play a part, but it was, this sounds twisted, on a smaller scale than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I guess I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not like, oh, this is such a great twist, and I liked the twist with Tom, at least, like, that felt good, but the fact that Joe, like, basically he didn't molest Danny, it's like it just felt sudden and out of left field to me. Like, I didn't see, other than like a week ago, I didn't see it build to that. Like, when we first met him, for the first 8 weeks that we knew that character, I didn't have any reason to.
I disagree, because there's snippets of Joe that you see, like when they're having a funeral for Jack, how he kind of snaps at Detective Carver. That's like,
we did
That's
talk
true.
on that.
That's true.
And
or how he cuts the interview. He always cuts the interview with Tom short.
Yeah, and the boat, how only family knew about it. He was one of the family. There's like little hidden things. So I liked the twist. It wasn't a big twist for me, but I kind of wish it was more of a twist though. Like, we kind of knew Tom was a bad guy
from the first episode.
Yeah, I guess what it is that disappointed me. You're right, because we have suspected Joe. I guess for a while we've always had a little problem with him.
I've always had an issue with Tom. I've always thought Tom knows something. And which made sense. Like, from the very first episode, I was like, Tom knows something. He knows something.
Deleting the text and everything. Yeah.
Joe, I wasn't sure about. You know, I kind of, he was just such in the background. And I also, because I know that actor had been cast in a twist role, like, not even a year ago, I was like, I hope they didn't cast him in another twist role, because I think I might have said that early on when we were doing like episode 1 or 2, like, I hope it's not him, because that actor's always playing like twisted characters like that you don't see. So when that came to be the case, I was like, oh well, darn it.
I guess what I'm latching on, because you're right, now that I think about it, we have suspected Joe for a while now. Like, little bits and pieces have come through. I think it's that the deleting of the emails and all of that stuff felt like it didn't really fit with this ending. Because it implied, like, I don't understand. I get that Tom's a kid and he will go out, like, he'll do things not logically. Like, he thinks, I have to cover it up. I have to delete everything that I did with Danny. But it's not like, that implies that there was something in those emails that connects him to the murder. And there's not.
Well, I mean, they're fighting.
Yeah.
So, and he kind of built it up that they were friends. He never said that they were fighting. And I don't think he wanted to mention that because he was worried. Then they'd question, why were you fighting? And he might be like, because he was seeing my dad, you know? He might break.
Well, I think he covered it up because he was actually the murderer.
Yeah.
And, you know, in a kid's mind, it's like, well, you're thinking of detective films. What can they possibly pin on me? Will they pin that I've been talking to him? Will they pin that I have emails? So it's a very simplified way of thinking about it, but he was actually the murderer. He did kill his best friend. And I think he was just trying to cover his tracks and also to cover and protect his dad as well, because, you know, any way you look at it, they're both, once you help someone cover a murder, you are convicted as a murderer as well.
Yeah. I mean, if the truth came out, and like like Tom's ultimately not going to be charged with anything. It was legitimately an accident, and he's a minor under basically instruction from his father. They're not going to charge him with covering up an investigation. They'll charge the dad with covering up an investigation. I guess it felt underwhelming. Maybe it's just because of how long we've been building it up, and because the thing with Tom was dropped, like he was deleting emails in episode 1. And so that felt like it was like going to be some huge thing that was directly tied into what caused Danny's death. That's, I think, what I was waiting for and expecting. I didn't know exactly what it was going to be, whether it was going to be drugs. We were talking about sex rings and stuff last week.
We were going to make it a lot cooler.
Yeah.
We never found out where that money came from.
No, we did.
No, we did. The money was from Joe to pay for the cell phone bill for Danny's second phone.
Oh, okay. My bad.
But it all logically makes sense. But I think it was if they had just waited to drop the thing about Tom deleting the emails, it wouldn't have felt like so much bigger. I felt like it needed to be way bigger, and it was sort of like he didn't have to do that.
I think it would have made more sense if they actually, and this is twisted, had a sexual relationship, rather than it being something where they were talking a lot, and then when it came down to them finally, it
does feel almost half measure, although it's almost
a little safe.
It is safe in one sense that it's like it doesn't make the show as dark, but it makes the dad's sacrifice, or Joe's like sacrifice for his son. And look, I'm not absolving him of wrongdoing, because he as
terrible thoughts,
as Ellie puts it, like he's like, I didn't touch him, but you were going to. It's right, he didn't, but he would have, and that's pretty bad.
Broadchurch is darker. Just saying.
Yeah,
but
and we're going to talk
that
for anyone who's curious about the differences, or Broadchurch fans who want to hear about. We will towards the end of this podcast go in depth into the differences in this finale and the ending and all that. But we're going to do that later in the podcast, so stay tuned.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying, because if he tells the truth, if Joe comes clean, the most at this point that he would be charged with is obstructing justice and all that, which is he'll go to jail,
and also an accomplice to a murder. I mean, even if it was an accident,
he set up like the body where it was and everything.
It wasn't washed everything.
Well, I think that's all. That all gets lumped into obstruction of justice, which is then a bigger charge because of the insane level of it that he did. But it's not a murder because it's an accidental death. It's manslaughter, but it's a minor, so nothing's gonna happen to Tom. Because again, it was legitimately an accident. It wasn't even self-defense. It was.
As far as we know.
But he hid it for so long. You know, there's probably bigger repercussions.
Yeah,
we don't know. We're not cops, so we don't know the technical, like,
if
how
Law
long.
and Order has taught me anything, and I think it has, it's just that it would be obstruction of justice. It's just that there are different degrees of it. That's the title that gets put on this.
Right.
Either way, it was. You know what? The ending fits. It fits. It may not have been presented in the best way from my viewpoint, but I think it absolutely makes sense. It didn't feel like crazy or weird or like completely out of left field. I may have used that phrase earlier, but it didn't.
I wanted it to be more though. Like I wanted somebody crazy like Owen or something. To
yeah, I wanted. I guess
to be
that's
like, so you to be like, what?
Yeah,
this
I
you were
agree.
Like, what? Oh, okay.
I wanted it to be somebody, and Joe was pretty fairly out of left field in a good way. He was fairly surprising if you go back 4 episodes. Like I wouldn't have. He wasn't that high on my suspect list. But I wanted it to be something that totally fit, but was so shocking that I never saw it coming.
Yeah.
I wanted an explanation we had never come up with on this show.
Yeah. It seemed like it was a good ending, but it also seemed like it was kind of cleaned up very nicely. Like there were a lot of characters introduced and a lot of time spent on these characters that were introduced and a lot of time spent on Susan Wright and Vince and almost little to no time really spent on Ellie's family, which is a good source of misdirection, but I don't know. I feel like it would have been a bigger payoff if we'd been seeing like a little bit more of Ellie's family and their interaction and their happiness and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
If we didn't spend 3 weeks finding our miscreant wanderer,
or spending like 30 to 40 minutes on the Solano family all the time. You know, that could have been time where we could have focused a little bit more on Ellie's interactions.
I liked dealing with the Solano family because that made it not just about the crime. It made it about the effects of the crime on the people involved.
Yeah.
But I guess it was just they spent so much time on each one of these suspects that when the reveal has nothing to do with them, like it wasn't that Vince was like accidentally involved or like drove by and that's why we convicted him, or he like was at the scene and didn't say anything, like Susan Wright, like that didn't.
He had nothing to do with
it. He just had nothing at all to do with it, and that's sort of like, why did we waste a week, like the episode 9, all about Vince? It just felt like now it feels like a waste of time.
Sometimes I feel like the focus on I wasn't saying that they should completely cut out the Solano family, but sometimes there was an overkill on their focus of people.
Okay.
Like we were talking about how I kind of lost a little bit of sympathy for the Solano family or Beth because they're just kind of tired of hearing about it all the time.
Yeah.
If they had taken some of that time and refocused it on Ellie's interaction with her family or even Carver's interaction with his family, or, you know, to really know like what is his heart condition, I feel like that would have given me more of an investment towards when the show ended and what actually happened.
More about like how Ellie and Joe met, like what was their relationship really like. We only got glimpses and pieces. You're right.
Yeah.
It would have
to see a touch more on the detectives' personal lives.
Yeah. No, you're right. That could have made it a bit more shocking or more intense at the very least.
I think I get why they showed a bunch of different characters though. Aside from just misdirection, just to show that like everybody's got something to hide and everything.
Yeah.
And like how Susan, how she with her husband, how I liked how Miller was like, how did you not know?
Yeah, and then Beth came
then
back and
what happened?
How could you not know?
Yeah.
Well, that was kind of a giveaway though. The moment Ellie said that last episode, I was like, it's Joe.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's gonna be.
I mean, I think we said last week is like at that point it's like it's Joe or Tom.
Yeah.
And it's both.
Yeah.
But it had to be because like you can't say that's like teeing it up basically.
Yeah. I think if they had built a little bit more affection for Ellie's family, like for the audience to have a lot more affection for them. It's like when you go and see, it's so rarely done well, but when you see a movie or TV show where you've grown to love like one of the characters. You just love them so much, and then it turns out that they were the one who did it all along, and just how like crestfallen that makes you feel like, no, but I knew it couldn't have been them. There's no way it could have been them. I think that would have been a stronger choice in my opinion.
You didn't really like or love any of these characters. I feel like I couldn't really
Except
connect.
for Jack. Once we got his whole story, I'm like, Jack, I'm so sorry.
I know I liked him better in Broadchurch because it was Filch. And it was like, oh, you're a good guy this time, and I feel so bad.
Well, you could tune into The Strain. He's a good guy on The Strain.
Oh, yeah?
He's a badass vampire hunter who's Jewish and Armenian. And he's a Holocaust survivor who fights vampires.
Right.
Check it out. I reviewed
That's
season
a plot
1 here at
for
AFTERBUZZ
The
TV.
Strain.
Well, I hosted that show too.
No, yeah.
So. Season 2 is coming back next year. Okay, I'm done with my plugs.
Yes.
But anyway, I guess it was interesting. It was not altogether wrong. There were good pieces, bad pieces. What do you guys think about? I guess. Well, let's talk a little bit about Vince and just like what happens to him from here. Like what happens to the rest of the town. I guess everybody sort of has to deal with the fallout now.
Yeah.
We had one suicide because of all this. We had Owen had a little love and then he lost a little love. And what happens to Vince? Like Vince is scary now. We've seen the dark side of him.
It was all done wrapped up very quickly. Like even that moment between Paul and Mark at the end where they kind of acknowledge there's like a friendliness to them.
Yeah, I liked that.
I liked it, but I was also kind of like, okay. Like it was just all just kind of wrapped up quickly, and just kind of Vince was up and out, interview ended. And I kind of wanted to get, I feel like there was something else, and I wish that they had shown that. Maybe if it's picked up for a series 2, maybe they'll kind of go into everyone else's secrets.
It might be because Broadchurch is season 2 picked as we
Broadchurch, like, and we'll talk about the show itself a little later, but it got picked up for season 2, which implies that they at least have an idea of where the story could continue
on that side.
Although
a little different.
That would be the most Can you imagine David Tennant? He like does the show in Britain, and then he wraps up, comes to the U.S., does almost the exact same show in the U.S., and then he goes back, does season 2 of it in Britain, and then comes back and does season 2 of it in the U.S.
Easy for him, kind of.
It's a bit of an actor's nightmare to end up in that situation.
It just just feels circular. Although I mean, hey, whatever brings the money in, right?
And they did do a different twist,
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, but
Not a
it
huge
just
one.
having it be Tom.
So do you guys have outstanding questions at this point? I know we were talking a little bit before about the blood in Vince's van.
I think that was just like
A deer.
Yeah, like a sneak, like, oh, it's him. Just kidding, it's not. What is it? What did you say? A deer?
A deer, yeah. He said it was a deer.
Oh yeah. Oh. I thought you meant like a what is that? Like a MacGuffin or something?
No. I think like he actually, because he's a hunter.
Oh yeah.
He actually did probably kill a deer.
Probably was, yeah.
Or did they prove that it was Danny's blood?
They didn't prove it was Danny's blood.
Okay. So what was we don't have an answer to what was going on with the plumber's van in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
He was hunting. Because when her sister talks about it, she's like, I saw the plumber's van in the middle of the woods. And that was Vince hunting. He was putting a deer and carcass into the van.
In the middle of the night? Mm-hmm. Do you hunt at night? Is that a thing?
Deers are nocturnal, right?
I think it's going to be, I think that's something that they might be setting up for a season 2 type thing. I don't know if that's similar to what they did.
If it turns out that Vince didn't kill Danny, but he killed someone else.
Well, there's just something going on with him, like there's a type of darkness there that they kind of toyed with. And I think if they do a season 2, that the writers have kind of already have that in mind of kind of giving that more, room to breathe and talk about. A
couple little like pieces, I guess, to play with.
Yeah.
I don't know. interesting. The ending had a lot of different facets to it.
Yeah.
When Ellie finds out from Tom what really happened. Because Tom's shouting at this point, like, he couldn't, he wouldn't, he didn't. Of course, he knows, and he's like, he's yelling, I don't understand what's going on. Because he doesn't understand, because he knows that his dad didn't actually do it.
Yeah.
So now everybody's saying that he did. He knows that he did it.
Yeah.
Ellie then makes the decision basically she's punishing Joe for whatever wrongdoings he did. He's going to get the punishment of killing Danny.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about how her whole storyline wrapped up? Because she basically opts to lie.
Well, I'm gonna steal from this Twitter guy who tweeted.
Are you gonna give his name?
Yeah, Brian Cummings B _ in Shortsville. Even though he kind of tweeted out the ending before we watched it, a little bit.
We're on West Coast feeds here, guys.
Yeah. But he said something good. He's like, but everyone in Gracepoint had a secret but Ellie Miller, and thought that their secret was more important than the murder of a 12-year-old. At the end of the series, Ellie has her secret to keep. So I think that's kind of cool that now the tables have turned.
And well put, Brian. I gotta say, that's a really good point. It puts now everybody, literally everybody in this town is lying about something.
It was nice to see, and I know a lot of actors are like, do not compare me to previous characters I've played, but it was like Ellie had a Skylar moment at the end there. It was like full on darkness.
The basic moral of the story is, if you're an actor and you find out you're going to be playing Anna Gunn's husband, you're going to be doing some dark
you did
stuff.
Something really bad. And she's going to have to cover something up for you. She'll have to cover up for somebody in her family. Yeah. And it'll cause her to show her dark side.
You're going to get to do some very cool acting stuff.
Yes.
If you're married to Anna Gunn.
Say my name. No. But so it was nice to see that kind of come out, and then what will that cause her to be in season 2? Like, if he knows what's going on, Emmett,
he kind of did.
Yeah, is she gonna go on the run? And yeah, he knew he could figure it out. So,
but Brian just tweeted that he read on the internet that season 2 is unlikely due to ratings. He's like,
that makes sense.
Listening now, I guess. Yeah. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Again, it's just the show didn't, I think, wow anyone enough. I haven't seen Broadchurch, but I know that people were wowed by it. And this show is kind of, it's good. It's good.
Well, because it was different. This is just like a copy. Basically, there's some differences, but not any huge differences of Broadchurch.
Copy's never as sharp. No.
Well, it's sort of like
exactly.
The Office season 1 was short. It was like 6 episodes or something, and they were almost all just straight up remakes with like slight language tweaks for Americans. And then in season 2, they got to bend. They had to figure out their own thing because of their versions of the characters and what worked and what didn't work with the new actors. So conceivably, a season 2 could go off in a wildly unique direction, but I don't know that they're gonna follow through with it.
And Being Human, gotta say, that was one show I did here. The U.S. version was better than the UK one.
Just eventually.
Yeah.
In the beginning, the first season was. It wasn't a shot for shot, but there were a lot of things that were similar, and then also you could tell that they were trying to figure out their groove because they were a little bit goofier than the UK version. But it was kind of the opposite. So the UK version was really good for season 2, and then as it went on, it got crazy.
And
then
slow.
the US got better.
Yeah.
And I guess that's sort of the tricky part with adapting anything to like a new audience is like you want to capture exactly what the original did because you're showing it to somebody theoretically completely new. But at the same time, you want it to be something new. You don't you don't want to put if you're remaking Starry Night, like Van Gogh's Starry Night, you don't want to just like copy it completely and then put it in a museum.
Yeah, what's the point?
Yeah. An audience can look at the original one.
It could have been darker. I think sometimes Americans on
You're too
television.
crude.
We play it a little too safe.
Well, we do on network TV,
Well,
and that was
network,
part
but
of it.
also sometimes I feel like even, I mean, outside of like HBO, but even kind of basic cable, there, you know, I know that like, especially like in terms of sexuality, sometimes we tend to like back away very quickly. But sometimes if you're willing to go with that darkness, if you're willing to like lift someone up really high, and then have them go as dark as they can possibly go, I think that it's just a better dynamic. Like of watching that, seeing that happen throughout the show, would cause a lot more people to like kind of latch onto it, because it's just like the balance and like the discomfort of like, this is really dark. People love that stuff. True Detective, love that stuff.
I think that's why Broadchurch worked more, because it was darker.
Yeah.
I guess it's tricky. Again, like in AMC with like a Breaking Bad or something like that, they go some pretty dark places.
They go some pretty dark places, yeah.
Network, you're on a national audience. There's a certain amount of censorship because you're on broadcast. You're on broadcast waves that like they do keep it cleaner. And
I don't know, like those crime shows get pretty dark.
We talked about it before, where it was like, well, this is Fox. They do sometimes go darker. X-Files was very dark.
Yeah.
Scandal can be extremely dark. There's some stuff they do on Scandal. I'm just like, I can't believe you did that. Whoa, you did that. Okay.
I guess the difference is like Law and Order SVU, let's say, they deal with all kinds of really twisted, dark sexual crimes, but the crimes themselves only take up one episode, and it's just the aftermath. It's not about that. It's about solving the crime. And this one, because it's only one crime over the course of a whole season, and we've gotten to know these characters more, and like almost to the point where you might want to defend your favorite characters and stuff like that.
I never felt that, though.
Yeah, no, I never connected.
I'm talking almost more in generalities, because of the length of a season. I think there's a certain fear of putting that like dark sexual stuff into characters that you're more familiar with.
Well, I think if you can do it in 2 hours in a film, then you can do it in 10 hours on a TV show.
Yeah.
If you can make me go from loving someone in the beginning, like I remember This Boy's Life, my dad always brings this up about loving Robert De Niro. And then he saw This Boy's Life and he was like, I love Robert De Niro, but I hated him so much in that movie. And even in the beginning, like how he plays the character of just like this man's man, this great guy, and then you realize that he's like an extremely abusive man. He was able to pull that off within 30 minutes. So they can pull that off and pull me in even more.
Yeah, but that's the thing. On a film, you're talking about a selected audience who's chosen to go see it. With network TV, they're constantly on a point of view. Whether this is right or not, I'm not saying, but like the network TV basically viewpoint is anybody is stumbling onto this TV show and they have to keep it semi-clean, unfortunately.
They can be more, I'm just saying, I think they can be more daring. There's stuff...
They can be. They absolutely can be. I don't want to say that they shouldn't.
There's stuff going on that on network television recently that I've been seeing where there are characters on TV right now on network television that I'm like, I should absolutely hate you for what you do, but I still love you and I keep coming back to it. And there are characters that start off really amazing and then turn really evil, and it's just shocking. I mean, that was a big thing, and this is basic cable, but that was a big thing with Breaking Bad. Like the reason people stayed with that show, it's because from go there was a hint of darkness. Careful, no spoilers, just for case.
I've never seen it.
You're not gonna, I mean, I'm not going to spoil.
I'm just
a hint of he's, well, I mean, everyone knows he's a meth dealer.
Yeah.
Right?
Really?
Okay.
I've never seen. I'm just kidding.
So there's a hint of darkness in this science teacher. I'm not giving anything away, but you kind of notice that there's a hint of it. And that's something that goes, that, you know, is tasty, that you want to see more of.
Absolutely.
So I'm just saying, like, overall with Gracepoint, that there could have been something like a little bit tastier with it that kind of like makes you go, what is that?
No, absolutely. I would love if network TV would go a little bit darker, a little bit more intense, a little bit more gritty and real. They can, they should, they won't.
They will. It's just Hannibal.
Hannibal
is that show that makes
Team Adrian.
Well, while we're talking about all the different TV stuff and the differences, why don't we dive in, and Kelly can finally open up and tell us about the differences between Broadchurch and Gracepoint, especially in this finale.
Well, how you said that you were surprised by it being Joe, the whole time since day one, I've been looking specifically at Joe because in Broadchurch, he is the killer.
So he actually committed the crime.
Well,
Like
it was an accident.
It was similar.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
it was his fault. It was Tom didn't run out
Tom
swinging
wasn't
a boat
there.
oar.
I think Tom saw them. I can't really remember 100%. But Tom was fighting with Danny. They weren't friends. But when at Jack's funeral, I think he says something like, "We're not even best friends," in Broadchurch. So they kind of know that there's something up. And in Broadchurch, it's more dark in that he does molest Danny. It's not like he tries to with the lip thing. He does it, and when Danny tries to, I think, escape, I think that's what happens, and he... I haven't seen it in like a year.
So not that like it was like unwilling. So
well, Danny was trying to escape, and to try and make him not escape, I guess I think he falls. Like he hits him.
It's a much darker twist in the story.
Since that's why I was keeping particular, and I kind of liked that it still was similar. Because I liked that twist. Though in Broadchurch, I did call it before I knew. Because my roommate saw it before me, and I was like, I think it's this guy because nobody's talked about him yet. I think there's something up with him. And I was right. But yeah, I liked that more. Tom doesn't disappear. He's more evil, clearly, in Broadchurch. He doesn't show the phone as like, I'll tell you everything. He goes like, he runs... Like he's hooded, like that one part in at the hut. And they run after him, and I think they finally catch him. But I think it's because he knows that they have the emails. I can't really remember 100%, but I think that's why. And he knows eventually he's gonna be given up, so he'll just do this. And yeah, so it's not huge differences, but the differences kind of they're kind of important differences. You know, I wished that. This is terrible to say. I wish that he molested Danny.
That's what I was saying too. I was like, I sound like a horrible person, but if they had gone like just a little bit darker with it,
No, we want them to go. Sorry, we want them to go all the way. In terms of the writing, we want them to just, if you're gonna go that direction, just go full swing. Because it feels like a half measure. But like I said earlier, it does make Joe's sacrifice bigger because if the truth was out there and he had admitted to it and he had come clean about it from the beginning, he wouldn't have gone to jail. He didn't actually, like, he might have gotten, people wouldn't have liked him, but he didn't actually do anything wrong. There's nothing saying you can't meet up with a 12-year-old out there.
But giving him his separate phone and everything, that's so sketchy.
It's sketchy, it's weird. He'd be run out of town, but it's not illegal, and that's the difference. So being willing to go to jail for the rest of his life for this crime, it is a bigger sacrifice, as much as he's not exonerated of wrongdoing.
But it didn't work for us, in that like we didn't care that he sacrificed.
Yeah.
Himself, you know?
He was planning on molesting a child. This is not a good person.
Yeah.
He just hadn't committed a crime up to that point.
Yeah, that's why I don't really understand the twist in that how it was Tommy and how Joe tried to protect Tommy. Like, you're still not a good dad. You know, I don't care if you're trying to protect your son. You tried to molest this kid. You know, You deserve punishment.
Like, there's no one really. I was talking about this today. I was like, most people, even if they do horrific things, aren't going to say, "Oh, I'm a horrible person. I'm an evil person." Yeah. Most serial killers still think that they're good people.
Crazy people don't know they're crazy.
Yeah, they see the positive side.
Yeah,
it's twisted and wrong as it might be. A good bad guy thinks they're a good guy. A good bad guy is the hero of their story.
Yeah,
that's it. That's it. At the end of the day, now this guy, he knows he did something wrong because he feels like he's responsible for Danny's death, and in many ways he is. But I think it ultimately is a good, solid, logical ending, if not the exciting one that we wanted.
I wanted it to be Owen.
Yeah.
only because it would have just been weird and unexpected.
But it would have still made sense because he was a family member for the boat thing. Probably was size 10 shoe. I don't know. I'm just. Oh wait, they
he's
said
always
that.
hanging out with the kids.
Didn't he ask that to some? Oh no, that was Vince.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's
Vince.
always hanging out with the kids. It would have been great because he looks like a nice, innocent boy.
It would have been. See, that's the unexpected twist that I think that we were all waiting for, but weren't gonna get.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure for a lot of people, up until last episode, and I think I know even for me, I was kind of like, I don't know about Joe, maybe, but I think it's Tom, or maybe it's Tom's hiding something. But for a lot of people, Joe was a major surprise. You know, that wasn't what they were really thinking.
Not everybody is spending 45 minutes a week overanalyzing the show.
That is true.
But do you guys have any other last thoughts on Gracepoint as a whole? Gracepoint versus Broadchurch?
I liked Olivia Colman better than Anna Gunn.
I thought Anna Gunn did a good job, though.
But, like, Olivia Colman, like, broke down hardcore.
I was expecting that, so
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised at how, like, stoic she was
So
to a certain
good.
extent.
See, I like the stoicness because it just, like, she is, like, hardened by this. Like, she is, like, I'm going to protect my boys.
Yeah.
Forget my...
Well, no, I meant just the scene where she finds out.
Yeah,
that
that's what
very
I mean.
moment. This is just me, but she seemed like she's kind of always been, like, fighting. Even if she does get emotional about things, she doesn't, like, lose control. So I felt like that choice to have her be a little bit more stoic in that moment was...
The moment where Tom is talking to her?
No, where Emmett tells her that it was Joe.
Yeah, and she vomits. Remember?
I kind of wanted just, like, full-on crazy, like...
Yeah.
I guess it rang true to me because in that moment there's a lot of denial and there's a lot of, like, she's resisting, but as soon as she, like, begins to process it, her body just, like, has to do something, and so she vomits. But that's, like, so she can't even control that, but emotionally she's, like, forcing herself to be strong.
I think she vomits in the other one too, though, but she's just more, like, broken up about it, you know, like, just... She just breaks
I
down.
guess, like, both are good choices. I didn't mind the
better.
stoicness, but I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it.
I think they went with her at first for Gracepoint, but then they switched it because they're like, let's add an American. I think so.
Yeah, and
Originally.
also, like, we're already doing the same show. If we're gonna have David Tennant, we should at least get a different female lead.
Yeah.
And I like Anna Gunn in general as an actress.
I think
she's
they
good.
wanted to bring in the viewers too because of Breaking Bad.
It definitely brought people into the show.
Yeah.
Adrian, any other last thoughts?
I liked it. Any show that gives me David Tennant, I'm always a big fan of. So I hope that they will pull a 1980s decision and be like, even though the ratings weren't that good, we're going to give it another chance and make a season 2. But because when you end it like that, just the ending of it, just like blacking out with them calling each other, I was like, oh no, that's what I've been kind of wanting to feel all season. Wait, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And so I hope they bring it back.
I will say my last thought is just building off of that is that in that last couple seconds, I wanted more. I was like, wait, that's how we're leaving it?
Yeah.
With, like, he figured it out and then he's just, like, calling her, but it's not like we see him, like, decide not to.
Yeah.
We just leave it there. You know, it's just like we left it hanging, and I guess
Don't soprano us unintentionally. Like,
I mean, that's kind of what they did.
yeah.
A little bit.
Darn it.
But overall, I had fun. I had fun.
It was good,
It was a fun whodunit,
Yeah.
and we got our answer. And so with that, we're gonna wrap it up here for Gracepoint here at AfterBuzz TV. I want to thank all of you guys for joining us. Thank you for all your support. Be sure if you have time, go on and rate us. It still does help the network, even though the show is not on the air anymore. It helps all of us here at AfterBuzz TV keep the lights on, keep sponsors finding us, and it gives us a nice little ego boost when you guys enjoy the show. So if the people want to keep up with you, what other shows are you guys hosting? Where can they find you? Adrian.
I'm going to start some other shows in January, but they haven't been decided yet. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow.
And I'm Kelly McInerney. You can find me at Twitter, Instagram at HollyWeirdo, and check me out on Sundays for both the SNL After Show and Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
And you guys can catch me on Twitter at @ZachWilson, ThatzachWilson. Whole bunch of shows here at AfterBuzz. Coming up next year, Breaking Bad fans can catch me on the Better Call Saul panel, and David Tennant fans can catch me on Doctor Who and Doctor Who Classics. I'll be back for the Christmas special and keep recapping the classics as we go. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Zach Wilson, and thanks for geeking out with us.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.